Hello, and very warm welcome to my dear students as well as my national and international audience. In today's video, I shall be discussing the introduction to the novel Candyman, written by Sidhwa. Uh, in this short video, I shall be able to reflect on how the novel should be read, what is important in that, and in what way it should be introduced to the students in the classroom. So, this is Candyman by Sidhwa, as the page is showing to you people right now. This is IceCandy by Sidhwa. A little bit of the views should be shared here about IceCandy, the title. This is in Pakistan, the word is called as kulfi, that is ice candy. I mean, it's a frozen, sweet material along with many delicious, materials which are added into it, like dry fruits or sometime it may be special flavors too. So that is the ice candy, and the man who sells that candy is called Ice Candy Man. Now, this title is very significant because, in one way or the other, it goes to show the sweetness of the things, but the novel does not talk about much of the sweetness of the things. The second title of this novel in USA was given Cracking India. This title goes to talk about this story which has been talked about, that India is cracked into two, and the two states have been formulated, have been constructed and brought into being, and that is going to be Pakistan and India. Both the titles have their own significance, but then Ice Candy Man is the title taken on the protagonist of the story, and the way he behaves, talks, walks, and is dealing with the different matters of life, that reflects on him. So apparently, the novel seems to be about Ice Candy Man, the character, but it is not so. The novel is about hundreds of other things. It is about the child Lenny, it is about the Parsi family, it is about Sidhwa, it is about partition, it is about the riots or the migrations, the painful migrations that took place in India because of the partition. So novel is about lots of things. It's not just about one protagonist. But then, as far as the structure is concerned, yes, protagonist is very important in this novel. He plays a significant role, and that is Ice Candy Man. So this is the title with which we are going to proceed further into further details of the novel. For example, if we need to ask ourselves how we should look at this novel and how it should be approached for the sake of examinations, for the sake of understanding, the list is before you. That is, the characters should be seen, then the plot and the themes and historical context in the Parsi community. Out of these two, Parsi community is the most significant thing because the novel is being written by the writer who is Parsi herself, and therefore she has her own unique and beautiful culture, and they have certain reservations about their community, and they are living in Pakistan as minority. Though Pakistan ensures the protection of minorities, but still, the minorities are always at a loss to understand what their identity is going to be. And secondly, it's the historical context in this, with which this novel should be approached. By historical, I mean the Pakistan movement, which started in the early 19s, and after that, it continued with that. And then in the 20th century, the struggle entered there. In 20th century, ultimately, Pakistan movement was there because previously the struggle was about liberating India from the British colonization, but now it was the establishment of Pakistan altogether. And after that, what political activity continued with that, what changes, cultural impact came with that, and ultimately, when Pakistan was established, what was the kind of problem which the Pakistanis and the Indians had to undergo? That is the historical context with which this novel is constructed. Themes are many, as I talked about. Partition theme is the most important theme here, and plot of the story is having stories in it, like many other, novels of this age, 21st century and 20th century, especially the post-war novels or the post-modern novels, or we can also say post-colonial novels. They have stories within stories. So plot of the novel is unified through the theme of partition, but most of the time we have stories of Lenny, we have stories of Lenny's mom and godmother Shanta, we have Ice Candy Man's story, we have Pathan's story, we have so many other stories, Imam Deen's story, for example, Rana's story, This is Hamida Begum's story. All these things are connected with the help of the, partition theme. So plot is like that. The characters are very unique. I must say that this is the novel of Sidhwa where plenty of characters is available, not because number of characters, but because of the variety of characters. Because we have the English characters here, we have the Christian characters here, we have the Parsi characters here, we again have the Muslims, we have the Sikh characters, the Hindu characters, all types of people with their unique cultural affinities and identities are available. So with these five angles, the novel may be approached in order to have a good understanding of the novel. And then, before we go far, we need to have some good introduction to Bapsi Sidhwa. I think Bapsi Sidhwa is the name in Pakistan, which is a household name as far as the English reading communities are concerned in Pakistan. They know her very well. She's not only popular, she's not only known to the people in Pakistan, but also to the people outside Pakistan. She is the author of this novel, IceCandy. Let's see more about her. We can trace more about her. It's about her. She is the Pakistani writer born in Karachi, later on moved to Lahore. She's got some polio problem in her legs, and she was 9 year old at that time when the partition took place. Pakistan and India were brought into being. She did her BA from Kinnaird College in 1957, and she got married at the age of 19, divorced again, and remarried. Now she has three children. Most of the time, she divides her time between Pakistan and USA, but mostly she's residing in USA. And then, after knowing something about her, we may proceed further. But before going, I just need my audience understand that Bepsi is the type of caste, and Sidhwa is going to be the name. So Bepsi Sidhwa. And besides that, she's a polio-stricken writer. She's got problem with her legs, and this thing will be highlighted in the novel. So the novel is going to carry a lot about the life of the author herself. And similarly, when she was 9 years old and living in Lahore, so same is the case with Lenny, the character inside the novel, that is also living in Lahore and is 9 year old and is having lots of childish view of the world which is happening around her. In that way, there are many things which are common between the character Lenny and the writer herself. So it can be called the childhood biography of Bapsi Sidhwa as well. So, as is the case that the real stories, the private stories, are imaginatively constructed and given the public flavor to them, and same is the case with Bapsi Sidhwa, that she has shared with us her childhood private story and made it public with her, with us people, what she's going to do with that. So, in this way, the writer is very much involved with that. It's the characteristic of most of the post-colonial novels that writer somehow intervenes, comes in, and can be known through the text which he's writing. As far as the characters are concerned in this novel, we have so many characters, but the most important ones are Lenny, Shanta, IceCandy, Monsieur, Imam Din, Rana, Hamida, and then is the godmother. Lenny, as I have already talked about, Lenny is a child character, and that child is looking at the world through its childish angle, though the child is very curious. The child wants to see the world, so Lenny is the narrator also. Besides that, we have Shanta. She is the maid servant. She is supposed to take care of Lenny because Lenny's got the poor legs because of polio, and so she is there to take care of her. And she's young, beautiful, and is attractive. So Shanta is there. And then is IceCandy himself, is a unique man, he's a very beautiful person, has got number of roles to play in the novel, and that is the dexterity of IceCandy which makes him more successful. He's the lover of Shanta. Monsieur again is there. Imam Din, the cook, is there. He is a typical Muslim character who knows what he has to do and what he has not to do at all. He becomes the connecting link between the house of these Parsi people in Lahore and the rural areas of the adjacent to Lahore and then to Jalandhar. This is possibility created by the writer to make him travel from Lahore to the place where he lives, the gaon or village where he goes, and that way connection is established because of him. He's a very clever person, he's a lover of Shanta as well and gives her extra food in the kitchen and ultimately stops other people to come in the kitchen. But he is very kind to Shanta. But that overall, he's not a bad character. Then Rana is a small boy. He is the friend of Lenny, and he lives in a village, and ultimately Lenny meets him when she goes with Imam Din to his village, and there the meeting takes place. Rana ultimately turns back to Lahore after partition in a very poor condition, and their friendship is revived up to some extent. Hamida is the second maid servant. Hamida is a opposite of Shanta. Shanta is short, plumpy. Hamida is long and slim, and Shanta is living peacefully. Her end is very bad. And Hamida, on the other hand, has spent her life, lost her family during the partition, and her end is not that bad because she resides in Lahore in a very good way with the Parsi people. Then Godmother is a very godly character, very kind and safe character, and that is the refuge of Lenny most of the time. And she's the center of advice for everyone. But at her home, a lot of ironic sentences continue to exchange between her husband and herself, and then she's got the younger sister as well, slave sister, and that slave sister also exchanges lots of ironic and funny sentences with her. So in that way, she's the source of laughter also, guidance also, and then calling the people to right path as well. She's so good a character. So proceeding further and finding out more about this novel, after the characters, a little bit of the details of the characters are there. As I already told that Lani is an 8-year child and she's the narrator of the story. It is through her tongue the story is being told, not through certain adult people, but through the tongue of a narrator who is a child. And that narrator definitely is able to look at the world in an in a way which is totally unprejudiced, and similarly she can give a view which is justified with reference to the character. She looks at the Muslims and Hindus and Parsis the same angle, and so it is possibility to find out the unbiased kind of situation and the story inside the novel. So Lenny provides this opportunity. She's polio stricken from the very childhood. She's polio stricken, and she wears braces on her legs, and she's also most of the time in the tram being pushed and pulled by Shanta. Because of her polio stricken and because of other natures and styles and the way she lives in her home, these things are reflected in the life of the author as well. So, in a way, she's the child reflection of the author. She's very curious. Len is very curious. She wants to know more and more about the people. She wants to know about the places. She wants to know the politics. She wants to know what is happening around her. She wants to know each and every character. She's honest. She cannot hide. She cannot tell lies. Because when Shanta was about to be discovered at the home of Lenny, everybody refused that Shanta was there. But Lenny told that she was inside. She's compassionate as well, because she later on feels very sad for Shanta and begs her forgiveness as well. And she goes to meet the godmother, and there she tells her story as well. So in this way, she's compassionate. Also, she's a roaming of nature. She continues to travel here and there. Okay, and then the character of IceCandy Man, his real name is Dil Nawaz. He's a very dexterous type of person. I mean, number of things he can do. For example, he can sell the parrots. He can massage the people. He can become the messenger who is able to connect the people with God with the help of his telephone, and he sells these ice candies as well. And he can do anything. Yeah, he's the lover of Shanta as well. So a very capable character, but most of saddest type of character as well. But he appears to be like a poet, and uses black kohol in his eyes, and wears a cap and takes the betel leaf in her mouth, and gives a by his dressing gives a total shape of a Lucknow and Awadh and Delhi poets as he used to be. So he's a symbol of the Mughal culture as well. And then he continues to change his role also, and ultimately migrates to India. Doesn't stay in Pakistan in Lahore, and goes to India. So that's the IceCandy Man, really the protagonist of the story, and on whose character the name or the title of the novel has been suggested by the writer. Same is the case with Shanta. Shanta is Lenny's Aya. She's very young, beautiful, and attractive. She's got so many lovers, at least 5 in the story. We have the lovers, but the constantly engaging, the constantly deceiving and cheating, and ultimately destroying up to some extent her life, but then saving her life as well, is IceCandy Man, the most attached lover. She's curious. She's a roaming of nature. She goes about with Lenny, meets different people, sits in the parks, shares her story with so many people, and wants to know about so many people. So that's why she's curious as well. But she ultimately becomes the woman who is the symbol of suffering. She, as a woman, of course, she has a very not very high standard of life. She's a maid servant. But then, at the time of partition, the suffering which comes in the share of woman, she becomes the symbol of that suffering. And she's the one who is cheated not only by the society but also the home she lives in, and ultimately she reaches that red light area, and there she becomes a dancer, And all these things happen with her, and this is up to some extent a model story of all the people where the wars take place, migrations take place, destruction happens, and ultimately it's the woman who goes to suffer, and therefore Shanta is the woman symbol of suffering. She might not have suffered if she was not Hindu. So it is the religion which makes us suffer. If she were not telling her religion, or people didn't know who she is, so religion becomes important, and her destruction and a type of molestation happens with her only because of the religion which she was carrying. So religion becomes it's not simply Muslim religion. It's the every religion. If it is used to exploit and oppress the people, it's possible to do so, because in the name of religion, number of things have been happening, and the same happened with Shanta as well. Then there's the plot of the novel. The story, of course, is there. We can just have the events, for example. Lenny's life is talked to us in Lahore. The time she grows up and becomes mature, all these things are talked about from her childhood up to her maturity. And while telling so, the writer is telling us the culture of Lahore, the streets of Lahore, the places, the kind of coloniality and the colonial system, and ultimately the independence celebrations. All these things are talked about through the lens of Lenny. Lenny also lets us know how the English culture is present and how it is colliding with Hindu and Sikh, and up to what extent a mixture of the culture is emerging. The another part of the story can be the Parsi home, the family, the life of these people, the spending and earning money and making their place. Another part of the story takes us to Pir Pindu, and Pir Pindu is again a scene where a number of atrocities are enacted in the name of partition and religion, and the political issues happen there. Rana and Dost Muhammad are the connecting link with Lahore, and then that of Pir Pindu. There are many encounters shown to us in Lahore and then other parts of India where the establishment of Pakistan takes place. That's right, but before that, the political struggle has been discussed in detail. We have the relationship of number of people with Lenny, and with the help of Lenny, we try to understand these characters. For example, Aya, Adi is her brother, cousin, then father, mother, godmother. Imam Deen is known to us through the eyes of Lenny. Colonel Brucha, who's the leader of the clan of these people, Parsi people, he is, though apparently very soft, but has a very hard-liner stand. Hamida is second maid servant, and then IceCandy man. All these people are told to us in detail. So, in fact, these people carry their own stories, and these stories are mentioned with the eye of Lenny. A child, we come to know about these stories. Lenny witnesses, or this novel witnesses, the worst riots and deaths and destructions which took place because of the partition in the name of religion, the name of political struggle. In order to please the political leaders, these things were happening, and really it was so sad and so bad. So all these things are present in the novel. Now it does have the second part of the plot as well. The abduction of Aya is that part of the story. Hamida's story comes there, and ultimately we have Hindu Sikhs in migration, which live in Lahore till the time of partition. Then they go. Masir is also killed. Rana is bruised and attacked and injured very badly, and he's left alone. But ultimately, by the stroke of luck and chances, he reaches Lahore. He's got nobody to survive with him. And then Aya ultimately, who's the source of attraction for so many people wanted to marry her. She becomes a Kotha girl, and she becomes a type of dancing girl in the prostitute area. And this is the very lower IceCandy man who helps her do so. And then ultimately, this is the godmother who rescues Aya and is sent to Amritsar, India. So this is the plot, the amalgamation of different stories of different people, and all these stories are connected together with the theme of partition. All right, and the Parsi minority theme is also there in order to keep them connected, because Parsi's home is the center of all this activity in Lahore, and everybody comes and goes from this place. So that is why these two things keep on connecting different links of the story and make it an organic whole as well. And ultimately, we have some of the themes of this novel, which are very important. The novel should be read with respect to the partition theme, then establishment of Pakistan, the status of minorities, feministic attitude of the novel, then autobiography and history and politics. These are some of the themes, but out of which the most important themes would be to talk about partition of India, theme of minority paradigm, and then feminism. We can say that Sidhwa has talked a lot about the women's emancipation, and she's tried to tell us about the suffering, the problems that the women suffer from, And because of political happening, because of wars, because of the troubles which take place around her, she suffers a lot, and she advocates their condition and wants that they should be emancipated in one another. And though she claims that she's not a feminist writer, but still, it is the women's writing, and definitely she would take sides of women, not in the way that she would declare the men to be bad, but actually she shows and makes a very beautiful statement of the sufferings of women in the shape of Shanta, Mida, and even up to some extent the mother of Lani as well. So in that, the feministic theme is there. Minority paradigm is even more understandable with respect to the theme, because all pages of the novel somehow show the color of Parsi people, their identity. And the striking thing about this theme is that Parsi people unite and talk about their status and identity in India, and ultimately they find nothing. So they would prefer to be with the English people, and then ultimately they decide that whichever country they will fall in, their loyalties will be with them. So in a way, they are the homeless people. They don't belong to Pakistan and India, and at all, if they are accepted, it is the minority people. So whatever the condition of these people is, they are very rich people, very much successful businessmen, and so that is why they have a place in the world of business. So that is the minority paradigm that should be talked about. Their culture is given to us in detail, the way of sleeping, eating, behaving, and talking to each other. Even the bedroom life has been talked about by the writer. So that's a very good display of the Parsi paradigm, minority paradigm. Establishment of Pakistan, definitely the moment which the novel captures is pre 1947, a few years pre 1947, and just 1 or 2 years after 1947. This is the moment the novel has captured, and definitely this is the moment when Pakistan was established. So in that way, this is the story of the establishment of Pakistan also. So that theme should be considered. Then the partition of India. India was united, then it was occupied by first Muslims and then by the British people. And the British people established their own rule, their own culture, their own language, and ultimately the Muslim leaders were capable of convincing these British people that before they leave, they should divide India into a Muslim India and then an Hindu India. The Muslim India later on was called Pakistan. So, partition theme, the sufferings attached to that, the problems attached to that, the causes and the successes, the benefits of that partition, all these things have been talked about in detail. So, partition theme is really very important and significant theme. So, in this way, we have different things which are happening. At the end, we can say that the ending portion, the conclusion, let us say that we can say that the Hindus migrate to India and Muslims migrate to Pakistan is greatly shown there. Sikhs spread death and destruction everywhere, and Parsis stayed just having changing their identities. First, possibly they were the Parsis, then Indian Parsis, and ultimately some Pakistani Parsis as well. So that is the way how the novel closes and shows us different details. Well, we can say that after attending this lecture of mine, the students and the people might have become aware of the title, of the characters, of the way the novel should be approached and understood. I think the same thing the students should take care of while reading the text of the novel. That the themes should be in their mind, the characters should be in their mind, and the way Parsi culture has been portrayed, that should be understood by the people. And then ultimately, these are the topics of examination topics as well that I have tried to establish here. So in that way, the whole novel stands introduced. The text will be better understandable if you understand this part of the video. So thank you very much for watching this. So hopefully seeing you in some next video. If you like this, understand this, have got some benefit out of that, click the subscribe button and the like button. And if you have some comments, do show these comments on YouTube or on Facebook. I will try to answer those comments as well. So thank you very much. That's it from me for this day. Hopefully seeing you in some next video.